about a Kpop collective. I am Dr. Crystal Anderson. I do have a PhD. It's not vacant. I have a PhD and I do research on Korean popular culture, Asian popular culture. I have a book coming out on Afro-Asian cultural production. I teach at E.L.F University, which is in Elon, North Carolina. My colleague in the back is Katrina Davis-Kendrick, and she can tell you a little bit about what she does.
I'm a librarian. My name is Katrina Davis-Kendrick. I have a master's degree in library science. I work at the University of South Carolina, Lancaster, where I help people do stuff that I'm going to show you how to do today. I do some teaching, but mainly I help people find things. I'm a librarian, so I find stuff all the time. And that's one of the big reasons I went to Kpop Collective. I help Crystal find stuff. And I'm glad to be here today. Thank you so much.
We are both glad to be here today. How many people were here last year?
Hey.
We were here last year also, and so we're going to bring you some new information that we have uncovered. And it's going to be all about the fans this go around. So that's us. And in the interest of time, I'm going to skip out a little video. My section is called Keep Calm and Be a K-Pop Fan. One of the things that we do in KPK is to do work that we do together. So we collect and organize information about all of the K-pop artists, but then there's work that we do individually that's based on what we're interested in. And I'm interested in what fans do and what they think. And so this is part of my own research project on what I like to call iFans. And you can get all of this information on the KPK website, kpopcollective.com. iFans is a big old project, and it basically has three parts. I am doing surveys of 12 K-pop groups, and if you want to find out some of the details, you can go to the site and see. If you were here last year, you know that we presented data on the groups that global K-pop fans like the most. And that was, the usual suspects, SNSD, Super Junior, Big Bang, 21. And so those are in this study. But then there are other groups that have really active fandoms with less high-profile groups that they support. So SS501, Shinhwa. So I'm looking at 12 of them because I want to know, to ask you all what you think about the groups that you support and why you support specific groups. Part of that is also I'm interviewing people, so if you're interested in that, go to KPK and there's lots of information about that. I'm also doing case studies and site curation, so if you're running a site on TVXQ, I'm coming to your site, I'm documenting it, and just showing what it is you actually do before those sites mysteriously disappear or something happens to them, because if we don't do this, then it's lost forever, because we know the nature of the internet. I'm also doing this crazy thing, mapping as many of the online fan communities as I can. So in addition to the websites, the Twitter, the Tumblr, Facebook pages, there are more of them than you can count. And there's no resource that you can go to and say, I want to know what all the Twitter accounts are in relation to Shiny, unless you just kind of search for Shiny on Tumblr or Twitter. So I am literally organizing all of those. Trina. She is the technological guru. So I'm literally organizing all of those fandoms as a resource. So that's what I'm doing in terms of that project. But today we're here to talk about fans, what they think, and what they actually do. Good. So one of the reasons why I think fans are so important is because they are the heart of K-pop. And there are a couple of ways that academics and K-pop fans talk about the fandom that are very similar. So on the left you have a list of qualities of an executive fan by this academic, and on the right you have what someone on the internet has compiled as what a true K-pop fan is. What they have in common is that they're both lists, and these two vastly different individuals suggest that if you're going to be a fan of K-pop, you have to do this, 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 and this. And I say, well, you can be a fan in lots of different ways. Just to let you know a little bit of what's coming out of the research, a lot of fans, if you look at the data that we're collecting, there's some things that all fans do, there's some things that not a lot of fans do. There are things such as everybody gets their music on, legally or illegally. Everybody's getting their music on. Most K-pop fans will watch video on YouTube of some sort. Whether it's a music show like Music Bank, whether it's a television show like Hello Baby, that's part of K-pop culture. And we'll get into that a little bit more. Just suffice to say that in order to be a fan, there's no hard and fast rule on how you practice your fandom in the way that I'm looking at it. The other thing is, what is a fan community? Once again, you don't have to join, get a membership card to be part of the K-pop community. Because as these two academics suggest, if you think you're in a community, guess what? You're in a community. And if you're in an online community, and this counts for things like, if you're on Twitter and you hit, boop, I'm going to follow you. You're in a community. Congratulations. So we have a really expansive way in the way that we're thinking about the fandom. Okay.
Click present. Click present.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. So this is what people say about you. If you do a search for K-pop fans, the one word that people use the most when they talk about K-pop fans is crazy. It doesn't matter who you're supporting, it doesn't matter what your fandom is, crazy, and that's problematic for a whole host of reasons. Not the least of which is that it takes the bad behavior of a few and extends it to all of us. From a research and academic point of view, because K-pop is one of the most diverse fandoms out there, it is majority women. Don't get mad, guys. I got something for you. It is also very inclusive, despite what you might hear about nasty comments on the internet, people fighting in the forums. In general, people in K-pop, people who are K-pop fans, are just going about their daily business, getting pictures and watching video. Okay, but that's not what I think that fans do. It's not really an accurate idea of the fandom. So here you can see how diverse the fandom is. Fan studies is an academic area. People do research in it. Fan studies is based on the science fiction fandom. Anybody in here watch science fiction, heard about science fiction conventions, because you would never go to one yourself? What the research tells us and what fan culture research is based on is the idea of the science fiction fandom, which is overwhelmingly white, mostly male, and very exclusive, which means you just can't bop up to Comic-Con, dress as your favorite character, and people will embrace you with open arms. It does not happen that way. However, K-pop is different, because as you can see from this graph, the countries that fans represent come from around the globe. K-pop is also diverse in terms of its racial makeup. Now, you see this great big orange piece of the pie, right? Asian. What you need to know about this category is, it just says, check the one that applies to you. And Asian actually also includes not just Asians in the United States, but people in the Philippines and Malaysia and Singapore. So if you wanted to get a more accurate view of Asian Americans and their representation in terms of K-pop, you'd have to take data from the previous slide, data from this slide, put them together. And then you'd get to see how many Asian Americans comprise that big old pie. But it's very diverse. And one of the things I like to point out is the high number of African American and Latino K-pop fans. Okay, so let's talk about things that all K-pop fans do. You all have your bingo cards in front of you. So we're going to play a couple rounds of Kpop bingo.
There no more. No más.
Sorry. Okay, there are no more. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue talking and I'm going to say, you know, if you find that this applies to you, you can put a sticker on your card.
You should be playing on the fan side. This is for the fan side. This is the fan side. So be on the fan side.
And
I could only
put 2 dots down. But you have to win. You have to win. Okay, so things that most K-pop fans do. K-pop is visual and it's musical. So what do most K-pop fans do? Troll for pictures. Yeah. If you troll for pictures, if you download images from the internet of your favorite K-pop group, you want to put a dot on your bingo card.
use your dot sparingly, people.
Okay, so part of that visualness of K-pop is also the videos. And the thing that we have found about K-pop fans, everybody not only mentions the music videos, but a lot of people will say, I got into Shiny because I watched Hello Baby. That may or may not be me. I got into this group because I saw an interview about them. And so in K-pop culture, it's not just about the visuals of the music, it's also about the television shows that a lot of the idols do, and all of those behind-the-scenes shows, mission shows from Japan. We're going to follow you around for a day, types of things. So, if you watch K-pop video, put a dot on your bingo card. If you watch music video, place a dot on your bingo card. Music shows, so Music Bank, Music Core. Okay, you got a couple more. If you visit blogs or websites to go to, place a dot on your bingo card. Okay, now here's an important one. If you download your music legally, place a dot on your bingo card. Okay. So, there are things that most K-pop fans do, but there are some things that only some K-pop fans do. And at this point, I wanted to show you a little bit of what I've been finding out about K-pop fans, because I figure if you want to know something about K-pop fans, you just need to ask them. So, I'm going to go through a couple more, bingo selections, and then I'm going to show you some of what you all have been saying about why you like the groups that you do. So, if you create fan art, give yourself a dot on your bingo. It's a little more difficult. Yes, it can include fan. I know. Okay, if you subtitle video, place a dot on your card. If you're doing subtitles or interviews, put a dot on your card. If you are translating articles as part of a site, put a dot on your card. See, this is people put their dots on their cards at this point. If you write for an outlet or a blog on K-pop, if you write on a blog or on a site for K-pop, put a dot on your card. If you are an administrator of a site, a Tumblr, a Twitter, a Facebook page, put a dot on your card. The raw data that I pulled from the surveys. I haven't done anything with it, just kind of gone through it just to see what I can see. And one of the things that comes out for the Cassies are these unresolved feelings. We have people all over the place. I like JYJ, Buck Homan. I'm down for the 5. I don't know what you're talking about. I can't talk about it. So right now what I can say is just from the early returns, this is based just on 150 surveys that have come back, is that Cassies it's not over. That's right. The fans are really still thinking about the impact of the breakup on the fandom. So, as you can see, we have the 12 at the top. You can tell me which, do you want to see what 21 fans say? Do you want to see what FX fans say? In black. Oh no! Oh no! Wait! There you go. When M-Black fans are asked what they like M-Black, a lot of what comes out is rain and the silliness and the dorkiness. Which is interesting from a research point of view, because now we can look at what's the relationship between Rain and M-Black in terms of the image, in terms of the musical production, and the impact of Rain's military enlistment on M-Black, because they have been scarce for a couple of months. Okay. Anyone else? Big Bang. Okay, listen. So, lots of people who like Big Bang say they like them because they feel that they're original. But you know, we need to dig down into that idea of what original means, because fans of Big Bang like them for their originality, but if you follow Big Bang, you read news about Big Bang also gets a lot of criticism for cultural misappropriation. Reference Taeyang's latest hairstyle. So then what I would do is I would go back and I would look to see what do people mean by originality. And the follow-up interview for this actually asks, what do you think about the criticism of Big Bang and their cultural appropriation? To your credit, VIPs, you've been the most active when it comes to the interview process of this piece of research. So we will do one more. So early returns on this data suggest that the appeal of Shiny is the fact that they sing and dance, and this is significant, especially when you consider one of the most frequent critiques of K-pop is the manufactured nature of the idols. This is all I have for Lucifer. That's all I got. That's all I got. I can't do that.
But Crystal said that we also can do this.
This is true. So, this is really interesting because it's not just the singing, it's not just the dancing, it is both. People cite both. And so when it comes to talking about, well, Jonghyun is the diva of the group, Taemin is the dancer of the group. A lot of what we're seeing coming back is that it's the combination of the two. So I just wanted to give you a chance to see what people are saying early when it comes to the feedback on that piece of data. So as you can see, the more surveys I get, hint, hint, the more populated the site will get. Okay. So, moving on. One of the things that I found out in doing the research is that each fandom has its own culture, a whole culture developed that is unique to the fandom. So, I'm going to ask Trina.
Nay.
Who is your ultimate bias?
Rain. Rain. Rain is my ultimate bias.
Trina, who is your ultimate bias group?
Shiny guy.
My ultimate bias is ONU. My ultimate bias group is SS501. What we found is that K-pop fans will talk to each other that way. The fact that you know what our bias is suggests that this is something that transcends K-pop fans. So, if you have an ultimate bias member, if you have an ultimate bias group, place a dot on your bingo card. If you have an ultimate bias member and an ultimate bias group. Okay. So, who knows what the Super Junior math is? Why does this matter? Because last time I checked when I was in school, 13 plus 2 does not equal 1. What is that about?
Well, because SM decides to have a Chinese division, and also, well, you want to start with the addition of Kyuhyun, because to the original members, a lot of people, including almost everyone in Super Junior, were against adding the 13th member, Kyuhyun, and then they did Zomi and Henry for the M unit, and so you still have, even within the Elves, like this divide of, do we support regular, do we support M, then they have H and
So, in looking at the fan communities, and this includes Twitter and fan sites devoted to Super Junior, there are sites that have a special section that say, we support all of Super Junior. If you were ever in Super Junior, if you thought you were going to be in Super Junior, all of Super Junior. And this is important because you hear a lot about the division within the fandoms. There are some things that fandoms will come together around, and this is one of those things. You certainly have people who are still, doing their own math when it comes to Super Junior, but I thought that this was a great example of the generosity of the K-pop fandom. We're going to embrace all of you, and that's a lot, because it's Super Junior. Let's have a conversation with you, Cass. We already know from the previous slide that there's some division within the Cassie fandom over JYJ, TVXQ, Homemade, Andromeda. I mean, it has broken itself out in so many different ways. But this image is from Cassiopeia in the Philippines, and for the 9th year anniversary, this is the image they created. It has everyone's name on it. And if you look through their activities for that event, they have JYJ up there, and they have the current incarnation of TVXQ. Yes.
They also had an exhibition for
Yes!
people as well. Each individual
It was
member
a
had their
whole
own
thing.
floor, had their own hour for a specific time. So it's, yeah.
Yeah,
It's huge.
it's a whole thing.
It's a whole thing. I want to be there.
So,
We live there. We come there.
So what I want to say to the Cassies is you might want to look to the way that Super Junior kind of resolved its issue and think about what some of the Cassies are doing in terms of resolving that. Just embrace everybody and keep it moving with the fandom. Yes. Okay.
we're all fives over here.
Get out.
Okay. So we talked about the dynamic within dynamic between fandoms. One of the things that people will say is that there are lots of conflict between the fandoms, as you can see from these actual quotes taken from the internet.
Sun, 10:15. Sun.
If you just read this, you would think, those guys are crazy. They hate each other. It's like a whole K-pop Civil War thing going on. However, research has shown something different. One of the ways that these alleged conflicts get promoted, or one of the places that we look to see how fandoms are actually interacting with each other, is to look on Twitter and to look at fan communities. So, if you tweet your favorite K-pop artist, place a dot on your bingo card.
On Twitter, it's crazy.
No one has bingo yet?
No one has bingo.
I need one more.
Okay. If you follow fan communities on Twitter, if you're following anybody, if you're following a fan community on Twitter, put a dot on your bingo card. Okay. So I'm going to show you some evidence. You know, I'm just not going to tell you, I'm going to show you. That, yay! Over here. Three. We have 3 people with bingo.
3 people? Who was the first to say bingo?
Who was first? Okay, who was first? Not that I want y'all to. She was first.
Bingo.
Who was second? So, I'm going to show you something that might change your mind, change the way you think about the interaction between K-pop fandoms.
I like that.
These are combination fandoms on Twitter. These are people who said, I like this group, I like this group, I'm going to start a Twitter account, and if you like this group, if you like this group, come and follow us and we'll update you. So you see, and one of my favorites is F parenthesis SNSD.
Whoa, where's that? Oh, wow, that's
And I like this because it challenges the notion that you either like SNSD or you like FX, because they're 2 different kinds of girl groups. But the fact that you have and it's not the only one. There are a lot of people who put these 2 groups together. It could be because they're both in SM entertainment, and you kind of see them. It could be the fact that they actually do stuff together in terms of music. But the fact of the matter is, if you're going to create a Twitter account and you're going to follow it, then you just can't be scrappy all the time between each other. I like Super Generation. So some of these things make sense, right? Because they're both in the same company. But there are other ones that I find really interesting, like Triple Kiss. Anybody know what 2 groups this fandom supports? Why?
Because Triple S, obviously, it's their
Brothers.
level 1, and then you kiss, it's you and kiss.
Yes, but why put these 2 together?
Brothers.
Brothers.
Yeah. That Baby June's brother is in U-Kiss. So that makes sense, right? If you want some logic to some of these things. Of course, my favorite is Triple Chanjo. Combination fandom of
Shima and
Douglas 501 and Shinhwa. So, I like this because it shows you that, people could be fighting somewhere in the K-pop fandom world. But we prefer to believe that K-pop is based on love. And people can come together, and the fandoms do come together in these very interesting ways. Okay. global. And I can't tell you what Korean fans of K-pop are saying about K-pop. I'm not in Korea. However, and I don't have access to their stuff, more importantly. But what I do have access to is everybody else around the world. And so in just looking at some of the communities out there, they cover all kinds of countries. What are some of the countries you see up here that are represented? Turkey. K-pop is big in Turkey, apparently.
There's a lot of turkey.
There's a lot of turkey up here. There's a lot of turkey up here. So Peru, Brazil, we know that K-pop is really big in Latin American countries. I also want you to see the range of the groups. It's not just idol groups. Epic High, Drunken Tiger. I don't know what they're doing with that in Brazil, but that's interesting. The other thing that I want to point out with this particular graphic, and I said, guys, I wasn't going to leave you in a lurch. Do you see, oh, it doesn't come up, prima donna dudes. Prima dudes.
Yeah.
This is how they describe themselves. Male fans of who?
FT Island.
FT Island. I am finding, they're coming up, I am finding fan groups that are made up of male K-pop fans, or fanboys. I don't know which term you might use. So that's another kind of special subset of the fandom. There are also lots of Arab K-pop fans that are starting Facebook pages and Twitter accounts. In general, fans of K-pop, but also specific to groups. And so what I would do with this is now kind of look, put them all together, and then see what are the similarities and differences. Does it matter if Super Junior UK, does Super Junior UK act differently from a Super Junior fandom based in the United States? I don't know yet. I have to look. I have to see. I have to see. I have to see. So, let me see. I think I have covered, I see people with stuff open. I have covered all the K-pop bingo stuff on my list, but we have a little something for everyone. I want to end with this. K-pop is a gift culture. And this is actually an academic term. The idea that people do things in K-pop not for money, but for the sheer love of K-pop. All the pictures you get, all that fan sub video, all those translated articles are not for monetary gain. They are out of the love of K-pop. I have told you what fans have been thinking and saying about K-pop. Trina's going to show you how not to give a sucky gift when it comes to your K-pop gifting to your fellow fans. Thank you for your attention.